Hi there, how are you all today? Welcome back to Plum Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of marketing. I'm your host Natasha Joshi, and we are back with yet another amazing and super informative podcast on e commerce unleashed with Phil Irvine. Welcome to the show, Phil. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Can't complain. I'm here in Chicago, Illinois. It's sunny, no rain, so can't complain.
Awesome. So, Phil, would you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your experiences with e commerce?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the space, I'd say about 15 years or so. Started out with a focus on email marketing, database marketing, CRM, and really thinking about how to merge the world of collecting data and how that can inform creative experiences, media investment, lifecycle marketing. But over time, I've evolved my career. I've worked for various brands and also on the agency side with a focus on growth. I've worked in non-e-commerce models, but mostly have had a focus on e-commerce and digital and how brands and companies can be more effective and efficient with creating personalized experiences to really build a brand following and cultivation to fuel growth for the future.
Awesome. So, a note for the listeners: Phil here has accomplished a lot. He have been through done work in various different industries. So that's super cool. Let's move ahead with our first very important question that our listeners must know. So, e-commerce has experienced tremendous growth in the recent years. We are literally watching e-commerce brands growing every day. So, how would you define the current state of e-commerce, and what are some key factors that have contributed to its success?
Yeah, I think e-commerce it's been exploding. Really ever since the mid 2000s, once the internet really evolved. Wi-Fi signals became faster. The explosion of mobile phones, smart devices. I think what's happening right now, the big elephant in the room is obviously COVID. And with COVID happening between 2020 and 2022, when we had a series of lockdowns and restrictions with being able to go to physical locations and brick and mortar, a lot of brands naturally just had to pivot and had to stand up e-commerce stores just as a means to sell their product and get it to their customer base, given the fact that people couldn't go into stores. So I think you have the convergence of that with also just lots of innovations with creating personalized digital experiences using customer data, but then also on a technology front, things like one-click checkouts, remembering orders, better shopping experiences in the digital world. Credit card information is saved and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I think the convergence of both of those factors, and then also from a shipping standpoint, there's lots of innovations with how to reduce your shipping costs with products as well. And when you have better gross margins, that allows you to play with a little more money on the marketing side to get a lot more creative with the investment in acquiring new customers and also spending money to retain customers as well too. So.
So it's a win-win for both the business owner, e-commerce business owner, and the users as well. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, that I mean, it's for business owners, they have more diversification and not having to rely on brick and mortar stores or pop-ups, the ability to stand up e-commerce stores quickly. So it's a benefit to them, but then it's also a benefit to the consumers because it's kind of cliche to say, but meeting your consumers where they are and where they prefer to shop is ultimately better for the consumer so that they have more options to engage and connect with your brand so that you can sell at a higher volume.
Absolutely. So, talking about consumers, acquiring new customers is a top priority for any e-commerce business. And what do you think are some effective strategies that leverage customer data and performance marketing to attract and convert new customers? And also, can you share any of the examples of projects that you have worked on?
Yeah, so on the front end, I think, one of the things that I would say this is more falls in the camp of small to medium-sized businesses is that a lot of brands don't think of it from a funnel approach to acquire new customers. A lot of times, brands just want to see immediate returns on investment when they're spending paid media. So for every dollar spent, you want to see a return on ad spend. But if you think about it with a lot of businesses, and in my world, a lot right now is CPG, so consumer products, beverages in particular. And there's a buying process that is applicable with every business where you have to create awareness of your brand. If people don't know who you are, it's going to be hard to get them just to buy with one impression or one interaction with your brand. So you got to think about awareness, which oftentimes is education. You know, what are you selling? What differentiates you from your customers? What helps you to stand out? There's a consideration phase. So once people know who you are, the consumer naturally wants to explore, educate themselves, maybe do some comparison shopping with competitors to see if they want to go with you versus an alternative. And then there's a purchase phase, which is once you have somebody interested, understanding, you know, the right pricing and how to communicate your value for your price to get somebody to actually place an order. So I think from a communication standpoint, that's what I think you need to think through when you think about acquiring new customers. And to give you kind of a real world example, I worked with a team and we helped AT&T, so the big media company. When you think about them, they have internet services, they have video services with TV, DirecTV in particular, and they have mobile phones. And we kind of came in to run a whole customer analysis, and we developed 5 new cohorts of customers for them. And a lot of times the way that they ran their marketing was just to independently with those 3 business lines, try to mass blast each of their customers to buy into each of those business lines. But what we did is we developed a holistic segmentation where we got into the demographics of different cohorts, what their attitudes and motivations were for buying, what types of locations did they live in, what price points were they likely to purchase. And basically we used this data from these new cohorts to inform messaging to acquire new customers that were similar to those cohorts. So it was a very, very time intensive and a long exercise to develop these new segments and these new personas, but it was greatly beneficial in being more prescriptive in the types of messaging to acquire similar types of customers in the future. And this is a standard practice, I believe, for more mature organizations, but for smaller to medium-sized companies, a lot of times they don't have the resources, but it's definitely worth an investment. Yeah.
Great. So I guess by what you have mentioned right now, I guess segmentation is one of the most important thing that we have to focus on. If it goes wrong, we might not, create the campaign for the right target audience, which might conclude that we are not getting as many purchases as we were thinking of, right?
Yeah, I think that's one facet that can go wrong. I think the other thing, another issue a lot of brands run into is what is often called the one and done type buyer. So a lot of times brands are great at introducing people to a product and then in getting them to purchase one time. Oftentimes it's with an intro offer or a big discount to get somebody to purchase. But a lot of times you're attracting certain types of buyers, but not getting them to repeat purchase and stay loyal to your brand. And so the value of segmentation is that on the front end, you can understand the types of customers that you want to bring into your portfolio that will be more likely to stay loyal, repeat purchase, and ultimately become advocates for you as well. And so that's that, I think what you said is true, but I think the other kind of component of it is thinking through on the front end the types of customers that you want to bring into the fold that are going to be more valuable and profitable for you on the long term as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess while acquiring new customer is important, retaining the existing customers is equally crucial. especially for sustainable growth of a brand. So, how do you think businesses can utilize customer data to personalize the shopping experience and increase the customer retention through it?
Yeah, I think this is definitely it's always been an important topic, but there's lots of innovations on this on retention and repeat rates in particular, because I think the thing that's happening is there's so many brands out there that have developed such great customer experiences, whether it's outbound marketing with email, whether it's on website experiences, loyalty programs, customer service, whether it's via chat or phone. There's so many brands that are doing it very well that if you have just a boilerplate mass blast approach to try to retain customers, I think the consumers are getting smarter and they're less apt to stay loyal to you. So I think the low hanging fruit is obviously understanding what products or product categories your customers have purchased, and then leading with that content with future communications. Because take for instance a big clothing company. If I only buy shoes from you, but you're marketing female shirts, I'm not going to stay interested and engaged. But if you lead with marketing shoes similar to the ones I bought in the past, I think the next evolution though for brands to stand out is also looking at website behaviors. Now with the ability to tag different types of products and categories on the websites, using that, but then also using surveys and focus groups. The big thing now too is soliciting feedback from your customers and then using that information to engage with them to make their experiences feel like they're personalized, not just as if they were part of your massive customer database. And so I think those things are crucial to get ahead of getting your customers to stay loyal with you.
Absolutely. And I really like the example that you shared. If I'm already purchasing shoes from you, it would be difficult if you're showing me t-shirts or shirts. Then I might doubt a little bit. And I guess this is something that can relate with the customer loyalty as well. Like in some cases, like for example, for Nike and Reebok, these are the brands which have already created a huge name for themselves, and it's easy if they are bringing something new. What is your take on this? Like if they bring something new, although they are known for the shoes and sportswear, but let's say they bring something in like a Barbie collection, I don't know, anything which is very different from the regular market that they are targeting. So do you think the target audience, their target audience, would be interested in purchasing such things?
Yeah, I think so. This is a common. I'm not going to say a challenge. I'm going to say more an opportunity when brands have new product launches and new releases. So I think a good example I can speak to. I used to work at Beachbody, the fitness and nutritional company. For those of the audience that don't know, they were really famous for P90X, which was a DVD program, but now they have a digital streaming platform called Beachbody On Demand, and you can access all of their fitness content within this platform. And every year, they would have 3 to 4 new fitness program releases each year. But I worked on the customer retention team, and you had different types of people that like different types of workouts. Some like more low impact. Think of yoga, stretching, Tai Chi, versus high impact, which would be more Tabata, cardio-based type workouts. And a lot of times we would have new product launches that fell into both categories. And so I think to answer your question, it's to what we just chatted about. There's going to be certain cohorts of people that you shouldn't really focus on when you launch a new product category. That's not going to resonate with them. But you really never know until you run tests with communicating to them about the new products. But it's also making a connection. Sometimes, so with Beachbody, it might be a trainer linkage. So a trainer that maybe had a high intensity program came out with a low intensity program. So making that connection to say, you liked Tony Horton in the past, check out this new workout, even though it's low intensity. So trying to find those commonalities and connections when you're trying to educate an audience about a new product category, I think is vastly more effective than just having a blanket statement and talking about the benefits of a new product category. So
Yeah, awesome. So coming back to like the marketing perspective here, and while we are talking about marketing, social media is something very important that we have to talk about right now. So social media is often a go-to marketing channel for e-commerce businesses. But what other marketing avenues should they explore to reach their target audience? Like social media is a great part of it, but what else can e-commerce businesses connect with? And is there performance marketing or any other challenge that channels that they should go for?
yeah, I think the best and what's really relevant right now is brand. So brand partnerships is a really big. Every brand talks about it, but not a lot of brands are great at executing it. And I think the biggest the biggest example that's in the zeitgeist right now is the movie Barbie,
Yeah.
and how effective their marketing campaign was to basically they had the biggest opening weekend, I believe, of 2023. And they had partnerships with Geico, with Airbnb. They had a Malibu Barbie doll house that was stood up. And I think it can be very inexpensive to develop these branded partnerships, because a lot of times you're working with another brand, and there's a value exchange with each of the brands, so you're not necessarily paying to reach a new audience. But I think the big key to think of is when you explore brands to potentially partner with, whether it's having call outs on your websites, whether it's email swaps where you're emailing to each other's database, whether it's an event that you co-sponsor together. I think it's thinking through, is that brand, is it the right audience that's going to align with our product and our values, is a hugely immense thing. And then when you get into performance marketing, I think it's thinking about how to complement those types of events or partnerships with the retargeting when it comes to display and programmatic media, or if it's retargeting with social media, with Facebook or Instagram. I think just having an event or a branded partnership in isolation, it's gonna get some awareness. But again, back to what I was speaking of with the purchase funnel, you got to think about what the successive communications and follow-ups are to push people from just knowing about you to actually wanting to buy your product. So I think that's how the two kind of complement each other and can fit together to drive growth in sales. So
Great. Actually, the examples that you shared right now were for, I guess they were for medium or, the brands that can actually afford a lot of campaigns or they can invest a lot. What about small businesses? What about small e-commerce owners? What can they do except for social media? Because eventually, if you are a small business owner, you do not have a lot of money to invest in other things. Just like you took the example of Barbie movie. They went and spent a lot of money into marketing because they can afford it. But what happens when you are a small business owner and you don't have that much money to invest? What can we do then?
yeah, I mean, so I'll give a couple of examples. So yeah, Barbie is definitely an extreme example with branded partnerships, but there's, I've worked at organizations 5 million and less in revenue, and you could still reach out to other brands of similar sizes, and you could do things as simply as email. We call them email swaps, where one brand will promote another brand in exchange for the other brand promoting the other brand as well. And it's a way to reach your audiences. The other piece that, is part of a lot of playbooks right now is influencers. So, one of the brands that I'm running e-commerce for right now, it's called Moon, spelled MXXN. And, we're very small, limited budget, but we're literally scouring, Instagram, TikTok, and looking for potential influencers that would like our product and are willing to post about it in exchange for free products. So the cost is minimal. And I think this is one thing you wanted to touch on as well too, is like the prevalence of influencers as part of your marketing mix. I think there's Obviously, there's been case studies of big wins of people partnering with huge celebrities like Kim Kardashian or professional athletes or things of that nature. But there's definitely a trend, I would say, of looking for more micro influencers where they may not have as big of a following, but they have more of an alignment with your brand and have a following that is more engaged. And so I think just not looking purely at the number of followers and impressions that you'll get, but looking at more valuable audience members that you can attract is becoming more of a trend, I would say, these days. And it's also less expensive than reaching out to these massive celebrities that have these huge followings as well too. So that's another thing that I would definitely recommend to kind of emerging brands that are just starting out right now. So
Very well put. It would be really helpful for small business owners to apply these strategies. So I have something new, like especially in e-commerce, we have to talk about D2C, direct to consumer model. And as we know, D2C has gained significant traction in the e-commerce space, and you have got plenty of experience in it. So, what do you think are the key advantages of the D2C approach, and how can businesses harness their advantages to differentiate themselves in a competitive market? Like, how can they build their USP?
yeah, I think the starting point with D2C as far as benefits is the data. So you get direct access to your customer data. You can track, well, get, a pre-deprecation of third-party cookies, but there's still kind of workarounds, but you can track where customers are visiting you on the website, what products they're looking at, what videos, what educational materials they're looking at. And then when they purchase, you have, date timestamps of what they ordered, how many products they ordered. You can understand time between purchases. So understanding all of this specific information about your customer engagement with your brand is something that you just don't have access to at an individual level with either Amazon or at the retail level. There's some solutions out there to get proxies for that, but you don't have the same specificity as you do in a DTC world. And I think the other big the case for why DTC is so valuable is that you have the ability to really communicate the key tenets of your brand directly to your consumers. You control your website experience, your homepage content, how you position your product. If you have comparison shopping, you have complete control over that. You have control over your direct marketing communications, whether it's email, social media, direct mail, SMS push. You can control the messaging and the wording and the copy there. I think in retail establishments, you have some control over that, but if you're in a store like Macy's, you're competing against multiple competitors in the same store space, so you only have limited real estate to differentiate yourself. And then with Amazon, obviously Amazon is huge scale and huge traffic, but it's hard to create brand differentiation there, except for your product descriptions or pricing. So that truly is the value of DTC. Obviously with DTC, you have to worry about, shipping, fulfillment, and a lot of things on the back end. But I think the way that you communicate your brand, what you stand for, your messaging, your creative tone is what really differentiates it and really makes it a lot more valuable than the other channels. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess can you share an example of creating a USP or the steps that you have followed while you were working with an e-commerce brand?
Yeah, the steps to create, like, differentiate a brand, would you say? Or
Yeah, yeah. The steps that you will keep in mind while you are creating a USP or while you are creating a differentiation between your brand and competitors.
yeah, I think so. Again, I'll go back to this brand Moon that I'm working on right now. So to give some context, it's a non-alcoholic spirit. It's infused. It has THC. So we have a cannabis infused version and a hemp infused version. So basically, we're competing with other non-alcoholic spirits or beers, which is definitely a growing category right now, at least in the U.S. to my understanding. And so I got familiar with the space because I participated in Dry January the last 3 years. So I was myself experimenting and testing the various different types of spirits. And Moon, in my opinion, by far and away, is the best tasting of the non-alcoholic spirits. There's a gin, there's a tequila, and a bourbon flavor, and you
Mm-hmm.
can basically simulate cocktails, margaritas, old fashions, and things of that nature. So I think this happened before I joined the team, but the team recognized the superior quality of our beverage compared to others in the marketplace. So there was massive attention made to, so number one, on the creative front, the way that we shoot the bottle, we have it in certain types of backgrounds. We have, if there are people in the imagery, it's an upscale, social gathering type environment that has a certain level of excellence, I would say, with how
Mm-hmm.
we create and shoot the brand. And then number two, with our messaging, there's a certain tone that we have with the way that we talk about it. We don't call out that we're superior to specific competitors, but we definitely speak about it. We talk about, elevating your cocktail experience, taking off as if it's at a higher level than other competitors out there. And then the last piece I would say is pricing. A lot of times for premium brands, the challenge a lot of times is you want to fall into the trap of discounting to generate more volume of orders, but we've really held firm on premium pricing for our products, and I think it's applicable in a lot of other industries as well too. And I think that's another key component of how we've been able to justify we justify the pricing with the creative and the quality of the product, I'd say. So
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing the example. I'm really sure it is going to be helpful for our listeners. And as you mentioned previously about, you were talking about customer data and it's important. And we know that customer data is a gold mine for e-commerce businesses. So how can businesses ethically collect and leverage customer data to enhance their marketing effort and improve their customer experience? Because there are a lot of unethical ways we do that. So what about the ethical ways in which they are actually gaining the data and using it?
yeah, this is a very important topic now with the as I mentioned before, third-party cookies are going away, so there's going to be some limitations with tracking certain customer information. So the low-hanging fruit for a lot of brands is they surface an introductory discount or an offer with a first purchase. So in exchange for providing email, phone numbers, maybe your gender, product preferences, brands will give customers an offer for their first purchase. But I think the big trend now that's really exploding is interactive quiz experiences. So as customers come to various sites, one brand that we actually were talking to, Bistro MD, it's a food delivery service, and they have what I want to say is like a 10-part quiz that gets at what your food preferences are, like what your health goals are. Are you a vegetarian versus, are you gluten free? So they have all of these various questions and steps, and it's very slick because it's interactive in nature, and you feel like you're getting value out of it because at the end of the quiz experience, there's actually a personalized meal plan that's surfaced to you at the end. So even though it's requiring work of you to provide this information, there's a payoff at the end where you're actually getting a recommendation that you can go and run with. And the benefit of this also with brands is once they collect this information, you can use that data to be much more personalized with all your follow-on communications, whether it be in email, social media, SMS, or things of that nature. So I
Mm-hmm.
think in this day and age, consumers, they definitely like the offers. Consumers will definitely
Mm-hmm.
take discounts and in that, but I think just having preference centers is not as effective as if it's more interactive and timely with communicating with consumers to get them to solicit their information. So
Mhm. I think this is a very powerful example just because uh, we are asking the consumer to fill out the form, and which they don't usually do. As marketers, we know that, but at the end, if we are offering something to them, like this is going to be free or you are getting this benefit out of it, then they might be it would be persuasive enough for them to fill out the entire form and actually help us get the ethical data which we can later on use. All right, Phil, that's all from my side. Thank you so much for answering all these questions and being here with us today. At the end of the this podcast, is there anything else that you want to share, especially with small e-commerce business owners?
Yeah, I think the one thing we didn't touch on is the concept of testing and learning and having a mindset to take risks here and there.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times, especially my mind goes a lot towards performance marketing and media. When you're spending money, a lot of times you'll have a hypothesis, and that hypothesis won't play out, and it won't bode true. So I think, and that's going to happen a lot of times when you're trying to run ads, and if you're not seeing immediate returns. I think number one, I'd say have some patience. Make sure you have big enough windows or sample sizes to really take data for true learnings as opposed to maybe outliers. And then number two, always have a backlog of additional hypotheses and tests, whether it's things with your website, with your media, messaging, copy, or investment. Honestly, like we're never in a mode where we've figured everything out. There's always something that we can do to evolve our program, what we're doing. So that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all this with us. For our listeners, I'm really sure it would be helpful for them as a e-commerce business owner or even the marketers. And that's all for today. Thank you so much, Phil, for being here with us. I really appreciate the time and effort that you have put. And to our audience, thank you for listening. We will update Phil's LinkedIn account below in the YouTube section so that you can connect with him and ask all the questions. I am sure he'd be happy to help. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and keep watching Plum Talks. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
And with that, we reach the conclusion of this podcast. If you have enjoyed our discussion today, we invite you to explore more insightful episodes on our website or YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to show your support. We also have a very special treat for marketers seeking to enhance their skills in PPC marketing. Visit our website and explore our free academy section, exclusively designed to provide valuable resources and knowledge in this field. And to connect with marketers like yourself, join our Slack community for marketers. Details given in caption below. Thank you.